Close your eyes and imagine the feel of wool flowing through your fingers as you knit. In a world that is often loud and never stops moving, the simple tactile motion becomes a silent sanctuary for your soul. Today, let's explore how every stitch can act as a meditative anchor, turning yarn and knitting into something more meaningful. Hi, I'm Pauliina, also known as Lina, and I'm a knitwear designer based in Helsinki, Finland. I design knitting patterns for your soul and create these knitting videos here on YouTube. While we talk, I am knitting on my summer top. I'm at the section where I'm just doing plain stockinette, so it should be okay. It shouldn't be too difficult to talk coherently and knit at the same time, but we'll see. And also, this is a topic where I would love to hear your thoughts. I really want this to be a conversation, and these are my experiences, things that I've noticed, and I'd love to hear your take on them and what you have noticed and what you would like to explore more. I think there are many aspects to seeing knitting as meditation, or I really don't want to say knitting as therapy, because I do think therapy, the actual kind, is very important and the words shouldn't be used lightly. And I'm in no ways saying that knitting can sort of act as a substitute for actual therapy. So I'm not going to say that, but I just wanted to put that out as a disclaimer. So knitting as a sort of meditation, as a self-care tool, I think that's what we can talk about today. One of those aspects is the tactile nature of knitting, the feel of wool, of different kinds of yarns, of the needles. I am someone who works at the computer a lot. I look at immaterial things, words and pictures on the screen, and that's what I also create. Working with natural materials, and I say that as loosely as can be. Yarns may have synthetic fibers as well, but let's just focus on like that. For the main part, these are natural materials. So different types of materials than what you touch most days or most hours of the day. I know that fingertips have a lot of nerve ends at your fingertips, so they're really tuned into, and their role is to sort of estimate what the thing is that you're touching and deliver that message to your brain. And I'm sorry if my terminology is way off here, but I hope you get what I mean. I'm not sure if like touching wool is something that automatically relaxes a person, if it's something that's kind of ingrained in us, or if it's, for me, that knitting brings me relaxation, and I'm usually relaxed when I knit, that touching wool automatically, that my brain associates the touch of wool yarn and wool with that feeling of relaxation. I don't know which way it goes, or even if it matters, but that's what I've noticed. If I'm just visiting a yarn store or seeing pretty skeins somewhere, I always want to touch them, and when I do, I feel it brings my sort of, not energy levels, but my stress levels down a notch. Even just that touch. When I'm knitting and feeling the wool, I think that alone is something that relaxes me and kind of brings me back to my body and back to myself. Like the yarn kind of ties you into the moment that you're in. Of course, the other aspect of why knitting is so calming is the repetitive motion of actually making the stitches of knitting. If you're anxious, moving your body helps, and I think a little movement instead of just being still, it helps. And also, it's really calming, doing something repetitive, a familiar motion again and again and again, and it has a really nice beat to it as well. It again unwinds the nerves a bit, or the nervous system, signaling it to relax. That's what I believe. I think we all have like our natural pace of making the stitches, and that is individual. And if you try to knit faster than what's the comfortable pace for you, you start to get really nervous and anxious. Have you ever noticed that? That happens to me often if I'm like, oh, we need to go, but I want to finish this section, and then I just try to go as fast as I can, and I can really feel like the stress activate. And likewise, if you slow your stitching pace down and really focus on working stitch by stitch, it can bring you more into the moment when you have to focus on what you're doing, and it kind of slows you down. You start breathing a bit slower, your heartbeat starts to slow down. So I do think it's a way to control your nervous system as well, or soothe it. If there's like a thought loop that you're trapped in and you want it to stop, making sort of each stitch intentionally, it gives your brain something else to think about, something else to focus on. Helps me sort of organize my thoughts, and also helps me to get out of my head and back into my body, into my present. To me, it's proof of our emotions transferring onto the stitches, that when you knit something, when you're stressed, you tend to produce a tighter fabric. You grip the needles and the yarn more tightly and kind of work really small motions. And when you're relaxed and laughing and just having a good time, enjoying your time, you just kind of loosen up, and the gauge changes again. I've sometimes noticed that if I've knit a pair of, say, simple stockinette socks, but I've had like several months maybe between the finishing one sock and the other. Same yarn, same needles, same person knitting them, same stitch counts, everything's the same, but the size of the socks is just ever so slightly different because my gauge has changed from one sock to another. And I think I've knit them at kind of different periods of time. I've been under a different amount of stress. I've had different emotions. I think that's interesting. Have you ever noticed anything like that? Wait, you're knitting. It's a nice idea as well, to sort of thinking that you can transfer your energy and your emotions, your feelings into the stitches and into the knit. Because if you knit a gift to someone, a pair of socks, a sweater, and you're kind of wanting that the recipient will then feel your love when they're wearing it, that the love you felt for them when you've knit that item is somehow transferred from the item to them, and they will feel it. You make associations. When you knit something, when you're happy, if you're on holiday, you will remember that happy feeling, that holiday, when you're using the finished item. And likewise, if you knit something when you're really sad or going through something difficult, then it might be difficult to wear that piece unless it becomes kind of a survival tool, something that you use as a proof of taking care of yourself through difficult times, for example, or something that keeps you company while you're going through what you're going through. Then it can also be sort of a source of comfort afterwards as well. I do really like the idea of knitting not being just knitting, and using it as a way to connect to something beyond the needles. If you've ever had moments where you felt the knitting to be more than the knitting, if it's given you something to think about, helped you work through something, connected you to something, someplace, someone, those are all really meaningful things and ways that you can layer onto your knitting to make it even more joyous and calming and special and more you. Very few of us have jobs where we can actually see the concrete end result of what we're doing. And knitting is definitely one of those. Like, like to me, it takes me a long time to knit the top. It would be so much faster to get in the car, drive to a store, buy the thing and drive back. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and I would have a new summer top. But instead I choose to do it with my hands. I choose to do it slowly. And I think that's really meaningful and really important in today's world, which is very productive and fast paced. Like you have to be more and more productive at all times. And people are trying to find ways to do more in a shorter period of time. Choosing to do something that's the opposite of that. I am choosing to knit a summer top for myself, even though it's probably the slowest possible way of getting a summer top. But I'm doing it because I enjoy the journey, and then because of that journey and because of the meaningfulness of doing it myself makes the item more valuable to me than anything that I buy from the store. I think there's value in that as well, and that can also make your knitting feel more meaningful, more important, more part of your self-care routine, when it's kind of the antidote to everything else going on in the world today, in our societies. My battery died, so if the lighting or the angle is slightly different, that is the reason. We've talked about the tactile effects and the movements and transferring emotions, working through your thoughts, sort of the mindfulness aspect. And it's kind of like as an added bonus, we get the finished tactile items. Like, how amazing is it that we can give ourselves a woolly hug every day? We can show ourselves love from ourselves every day by wearing the knits we are wearing and sort of feeling the warmth and the love and having the calming effect, feeling the wool against your skin. That also transfers all of that to you into the present, in the moment that you're in. Now I've just noticed that I've been wearing this shawl the wrong side up the whole time, and I guess I now have to practice what I preach and be okay with being imperfect. Like, I had the fleeting thought of, oh, I need to redo this whole thing, but I mean, it looks quite okay with this side up as well, doesn't it? Yeah, let's go with that. Let's be okay with this imperfection in this video. See which parts of this resonates with you when you're knitting next. See if you can feel the wool or the material you're knitting with and how that makes you feel. See if you can focus on the stitches for a while and see what that does to you. And I mean, if you've had any of insights into mindful knitting of your own, like what does it mean to you? Where do you notice it? When do you notice it? And what are your thoughts on transferring sort of your emotions and from your heart and from your soul into your knitting and vice versa as well? Yeah, I kind of think that knitting and like mindful knitting can be a conversation between your hands and your heart. You're pouring things from your heart into your knitting, your intentions, your emotions, your love. And at the same time, your hands are transferring all the calming energies of the wool and of the repetitive motion into your heart and into your nervous system and soul. So I think that's a nice way to look at it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon again.